So, of course, I was gonna get to this because this was too funny. Because I got family that like Dr. Phil. Their catfish stuff is actually pretty entertaining as like a when you got nothing else on. And me bearing in news all day, of course, eventually I was gonna come across this. I waited a couple days because I wanted to see if there was gonna be any sort of response. Not disappointed. But I thought some of this was bizarre and interesting to go over because remember how I said, or remember when the Biden voters were cheering when he said true never shower of pressure and everybody started cheering and you're sitting there like, he didn't say anything and they're cheering. A similar thing happens here. And look, I don't know about, the Dr. Phil crew. I haven't heard good things about them, but I'm like, did they intentionally grab, like, the dumbest alphabet people they could find? Because I'm in LA, so I'm like, there's quite a few here. I've heard better arguments. I was like, did they pull a dumb one on purpose for the entertainment value? Because if so, it worked. Yeah, this is interesting. Now, you already know on this channel, I have already gone hard on Matt Walsh multiple times for a lot of stupid shit he's said. But at least this time, he's 100% on it. It's always nice when you can agree with somebody you really don't like. So I want you to go into this conversation, right? I want you to see what this person says, because imagine you are this gray, asexual alien that can produce by, say, like budding. You can just pull babies out of your skin. So you have no clue what the concept of sex is or gender, and you listen to this person. Tell me what information you gained at the end of this on what these concept or these things are, okay?
Well, this is one of the problems with this left-wing gender ideology, is that no one who espouses it can even tell you what these words mean. Like, what is a woman? Well, can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't, because it's not for me to say. Womanhood looks different for everybody.
What? This is often a problem I don't get. Why would you use a word if you can't put any sort of definition behind it? Then there's no point in the word. Then we just don't have the word. Even words, because, I'm bilingual. Even words that don't translate into English, we can still describe them. And we have the words to describe them. Maybe something in Japanese that is one word, we would say in English in, like, a whole sentence. Even if we don't have a specific word for it, we can define the concept. If you just say, I don't know what that is, well, then how can you say it's what it is? Number one thing you do in arguments like this is you have to define your terms. You come in and go, I can't define any of the terms. You can't talk about anything. There's no point. You're just talking past each other.
What do you define a woman as?
An adult human female.
And what does a female mean?
Well,
how do you define a female?
Someone with female reproductive organs.
Okay.
Someone who's, here's the thing. When you're female, it goes right down to your bones, your DNA. So that's why if someone dies, we could dig up their bones.
I would say, if it was me, I would have brought up chromosomes. That would have been probably a better benchmark for him. But then again, a lot of this stuff was cut for time and TV, you know.
100 years from now, we have no idea what they believed in their head, but we can tell what sex they were because it's ingrained in every fiber of their being.
Interesting. So I'm trying to understand. Your definition is that a woman is someone who is female, you said, right?
Correct. Is a biological female.
So what happens if we have maybe someone who is female, identifies as a woman, right? Cisgender woman, right? As you just explained, but maybe doesn't have the ability to reproduce.
Okay, I've heard this is why I said you should have brought up chromosomes, because usually this is always where they go right after.
Maybe it doesn't have those organs that you're talking about that are reproductive organs.
I have answered the question. You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not myself.
You used the word, so what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right. So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
that describes what?
People who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently. And so trans women are women too.
Okay.
See, this is the part where I said, what? They just did the Biden true Navashava pressure thing. Right? So like I said, remember when I said, pretend you're this alien that doesn't understand this concept, and you go, I need to know what a woman is. And they go, a woman's whatever you want it to be. Okay, well, I can't put something to that. I can't put an image necessarily to that. I could just put anything I made up to that. So give me a definition. What is it? You're using the word. I want to know what it is. I don't know. It just describes a category. A category of what? Whatever you want it to be. But that category is women, which is what? Whatever it is. So trans women heretofore are women, which I don't know what that is. And then everyone starts cheering, and I'm like, they literally just said nothing. This conversation went nowhere, and people started cheering. But then again, this is in Hollywood, right? You don't have the brightest people in Hollywood. Because of only... So, how can you say you're going to call yourself, for example, trans masculine? Okay, what is masculine then? We're not getting definitions for man, woman, masculine, feminine. Why do you put words to these things if all these words do not mean anything? You have to put meaning behind the words or they're useless. Because this is how, like, a lot of people get emotional and angry over things they don't understand because they have their trigger words that just set them off. This is one of them. What is a woman? They get set off because they don't know what they're talking about. This is why with this gender stuff, what they just said was progressive word vomit. And I brought this up. This is why I said, if you want to get these progressive worldviews and the alphabet worldviews, you got to find the smartest ones you can. Okay? Because a lot of this lower tier stuff is literal word vomit. They're just saying stuff that means nothing. Remember when I made the Bank of America video? And you point out how these people on the left will just say all these words, and then when, they have other trigger words, and when you ask them for definitions and examples and other stuff, a lot of them just talk in circles or define the word with itself and just go in circles. And it's meaningless because they don't know what they're talking about. This is why I said, you want to find the progressive worldview, you got to find the smartest ones. Because at least the smart ones are at least coherent, at least they can define everything.
And you want to hold on. You want to reduce. Listen. You want to reduce
means, though. So that's the problem. You want to reduce
women. You want to reduce men down.
See it again. You want to reduce women and men. What is that though? You like this person themselves, whatever they are, just said men and women really don't mean anything, and now accusing Matt Walsh of saying you want to reduce men and women down to body parts. Okay, but how can you say that if you don't know what it is he's talking about? Because you don't know what a woman is, and you don't know what a man is. But you're saying, because he has a definition. You don't. So why are you continuously using the word?
Down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals, our chromosomes, right? That's what you're saying.
You want to do is what you want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood, and turn it into basically a costume that could be worn.
I would have said a fashion statement because, I mean, like I said, I'm in LA. You see this stuff with the younger kids and stuff. They would have been the emo kids or the goth kids or the skater kids when I was growing up.
It's real funny. It's real funny when you're
should look like. Right, so man, you're literally saying this is what a woman is.
Yeah, well,
isn't that a little sexist?
How can it be sexist though? Let's go into sexism is prejudice or discrimination based on one's sex or gender. Sexism can affect anyone, but it primarily affects women and girls. How can you say that when you don't know what women and girl is? If it's just whatever you want it to be, then you could spin that so many ways. This is why I say define the word. And when you go, I can't define it, you can't use words linked to the words you cannot define. Sexism, by your definition, really doesn't have a meaning. And then, of course, part 2 gets better, because this lady apparently thinks the view that men are men and women are women is an extremist view that basically everyone in the world has held for all of human history, that billions upon billions upon billions of people still hold all over the world, is somehow the extremist position. But then again, these are LA white liberals, bro. They think they're smarter than everybody else, but then when you ask them questions, they fucking crumble in a second. While pretending they're fighting for the world and thinking they're smarter than everybody else. This is why I can't stand white liberals, man. Neoliberals. I've already brought this up with the neoliberals, the shit libs, whatever you want to call them. That literally, the decline in this country is coming from them, primarily from them.
There's the extreme approach that you are admittedly taking. And then there's also just ordinary people that might not be comfortable with the language change. And it just is awkward. And so they're afraid of not being courteous or being accepting. So there's like these two things. There's actually combating and not being, you don't like transgender, the idea of transgender. That's different than pronouns. But then just for most people, it's just feeling a little bit awkward and unsure and not wanting to hurt or offend somebody.
Well, why is it important for educators to teach about gender identity, gender presentation, and pronouns? Why do you think that's important?
Because there is a difference. There is biological sex, and a lot of times people are conflating sex and gender. So there's biological sex, and then
These were literally the same thing and still are in the vast majority of places all over the world. It only became a thing in the America's little late 50s, 60s where they started to separate these two things. By the way, the only people who got the shit end of that stick, though, has been women. So, great, keep it up.
there's gender, and that's a social construct in the sense that just because you're born biologically a female doesn't mean you automatically want to vacuum.
So here's my issue with a lot of these arguments is they boil down to more so what they're defining as their gender is almost like their personality traits. You can be a masculine, a masculine man or an effeminate man or, a very masculine behaving woman. Problem is, a lot of the reasons they don't really like to define man or woman is because immediately their head will go to certain stereotypes or archetypes that are based in biology with variations between cultures, but more or less the same. And then they're going to get accused of stereotyping and they get attacked by their own. So a lot of them, it's just safer to not define it than risk being put into that position. But most of the time when they talk about their gender identity, a lot of times I'm just like, it sounds like you're talking about your personality traits. You're just finding a unique way to describe it. You get what I'm saying?
For instance, which is usually a feminine activity or conflated that way. And so it's this idea of giving children in age-appropriate ways an understanding that these things aren't set in stone. Gender identity is not tied to biology.
You say that gender's not set in stone.
If you switch that to personality is not tied into your sex or whatever biology, then that whole thing makes a lot more sense. That's why I said it sounds like they're just conflating these two things. You see that a lot in schools where they go, the kid likes to play with dolls, so then they jump to, oh, he probably likes more feminine behavior, kid likes more feminine behavior. They start pushing him to think he might be a girl, and it's like, or he's just a little boy that likes to play with dolls, or whatever. And a lot of them just grow out of it. Like I say, you get the mostly white women, I got pointed out, it is mostly white women, neoliberals, they're all trying to one-up each other, and all of them trying to make their kid alphabet so they can go down to the fucking country club and go brag about how they have an alphabet kid. A lot of this for those women is a status thing, and it's sad. I'm just, like I said, I've been in these rich areas. This is what these suburban parents, like I said, again, in the white areas specifically, because I bring it up because of them, because black people ain't down with this shit. This is what a lot of them do it for. Social credit.
It's not.
What do you mean?
I mean that's just factually incorrect, saying that. So you have biology is the chromosomal makeup and reproductive organs and all of that. And so that would be sort of the nature side of things. But the nurture side of things is where we see more of gender identities.
She began by saying that my view is extreme. Okay, so the view that every single person on Earth has held up until 15 seconds ago is extreme. And the view that almost everyone does right now still hold is extreme, apparently, according to her. But there is this complete... They are...
See, that's how you can tell somebody is completely sheltered in an echo chamber when he said something just like that. And she's like, that doesn't make sense. The view that literally the overwhelming majority of people on Earth have, except for like California, New York, white liberals. Because like I said, this is what they like, this is what they're like. They think they're smarter than you, they think you're better than you. This is why these people like this are where Latin X comes from. Right? They're going around and changing your language because they do think they're better than you and they think they're smarter than you.
Are conflating gender and sex because on one hand they say, well, you got your biological sex, but then your gender is whatever social construct. But then they turn around and say that trans women are women. So a man who identifies with the gender, the social construct of womanhood, actually is a woman. So if you can laugh all you want, but this is a logical problem. You are conflating sex and gender just by saying that. So that's the problem.
There's biological sex, and then there is gender identity. Part of me wants to ask why you care so much, because it's really not that big of a deal.
Can I answer that? I'd love to answer that question. I care about
the funny part is, I've said, like, this is usually not something I get too much into. A lot of I've always said the whole gender thing, it's going to work itself out because it is. But here's the thing. Here's where I sort of a little bit agree, because overwhelmingly the people voting for this are Democrats, right? And then like in LA, and overwhelmingly it is women. Okay, if they want to let the alphabet come into their sports and they don't want to speak up, they don't deserve it, right? Because he says in a second that they're stealing opportunities from women. Okay, they're voting for it. That's their issue they have to deal with. It's usually, I see a lot of men around here going, women don't take responsibility for themselves. They're always trying to shift the blame. Okay, let them lose their sports leagues. Let them lose their bathrooms. They're voting for it. They're going to learn the hard way. Because guess what's going to happen? If you don't want to, stand up for yourself out of fear of being canceled or whatever, you don't deserve to have your sports team. Okay? No one's going to come to defend you because nobody cares about women's sports. That's the harsh truth. We saw this with the Wii Spa in LA. We saw that there was mostly lefty women showing up to protest the man who identified as a woman coming into the locker room. There is a reason when you saw the black lady coming in there going, that's a dude with a dick. There was a reason why you hear one lady start to say something and shut up halfway through because she realized what she said was retarded when she said, well, would you care or would you be upset if a woman or someone who identifies as a woman, who's a biological woman, comes in the men's locker room naked? And then she kind of like stopped halfway because she realized what a stupid question that was, because all the men are like, all right, have at it. That's why I'm just like, leave it alone. The women will sort it out. Either they'll get their own sports, or what happens is they'll lose their sports league and it'll become the Alphabet Sports League, or eventually they'll make their own and we'll have 3, or they'll stand up for themselves and realize the mistake they made, because they were the ones voting for the bathroom thing, and then you had them at the Wii Spa, like in LA, they had them at the Wii Spa saying, no, not the locker room, and I have to go. If the bathrooms are okay, why are the locker rooms not okay? Are they actual women in the bathrooms? If so, not why in the locker rooms. You can't go like, wait, no. And I was like, don't ask for the men to come fix this, okay? Y'all have to deal with this. This was your decision. So you're right. It's going in this direction. And like I said, the reason we have most of these laws, sex discrimination laws, are to protect women. But if women want to vote it away, who am I to say, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Y'all strong women, you vote for whatever you want. But y'all gonna have to vote your way out of it, and good luck, because once you establish something as a right, good luck trying to get that taken away. Right? You all said the right to use any bathroom they want. Have fun trying to get that taken away.
So basic truth matters. I want to live in a society where people care about the truth and we're grounded in truth.
All right.
I care about children, and these insane ideas about gender are being
Bro, whoa, you see that? Yo, you see that? Rico. She was like, yo, look at this when he brings up children. Damn. She is pissed.
I care about children, and these insane ideas about gender.
Bro, she wants... Bro, she's looking at him like she's about to meet him in the parking lot.
Are being foisted on kids, and that bothers me quite a bit. I care about the women who are having their opportunities stolen from them. I care quite a bit, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so that's what I mean by a lot of it's just, it's gonna sort itself out. Now with the kids, that's a totally different thing. That's actually, I was like, okay, for the right, I was like, yeah, that's a battle worth having for the kids. But as far as, like I said, when it comes to the women, it's their response. It's their fight. They're voting for it. Their fight. They got to deal with it.